What if one morning you woke up and your city had turned into a battlefield? No warning, no sirens. Just the sound of gunfire echoing through empty streets, smoke filling the sky, and fear replacing normal life. This isn't a scene from a movie. This is the reality for millions in Sudan, a country caught in a brutal struggle for power that has plunged its people into unimaginable suffering. But Sudan isn't destined to be a nation of conflict. It's one of Africa's largest countries, rich in land, gold, culture, and a history stretching back millennia. For centuries, it was a vibrant crossroads where Arab and African civilizations met. So, how did a nation with so much potential fall into such a devastating war? To understand, we have to look back. For nearly 30 years, from 1989, Sudan was ruled by a military dictator, Omar al-Bashir. He seized power in a coup and held it with an iron fist. Political opponents were silenced, protests were crushed, and powerful militias were used to control entire regions through fear. Under his rule, Sudan saw brutal civil wars, the horrific genocide in Darfur, and the eventual separation of South Sudan. Until the people stood up. In 2019, after months of massive, peaceful protests led by students, professionals, and everyday citizens, Bashir was finally overthrown. But while the dictator was gone, the military system that had kept him in power remained. Sudan entered a fragile transition, with a government where civilian leaders shared power with the very military they had protested against. Two figures rose to the top, becoming the most powerful men in the country. The first was General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, the head of Sudan's official army, the Sudanese Armed Forces, or SAF. He's the leader of the Rapid Support Forces, or RSF, a powerful paramilitary group that grew out of the brutal Janjaweed militias used in Darfur. The conflict that erupted wasn't about religion or ideology. One of the biggest points of tension was the plan to merge Hemedti SRSF into the National Army. For General Burhan, this was a way to consolidate all military power under his command. But for Hemedti, it meant losing his independence, his authority, and the source of his immense wealth. Both generals also shared a common fear: civilian rule. A truly democratic government would mean accountability. It would expose decades of corruption and end the military's dominance over the country's politics and economy. So instead of handing power to the people who had risked their lives for freedom, the generals turned their weapons on each other. In April 2023, the tension finally exploded. The fighting began in the capital Khartoum, a bustling city that was transformed into a war zone overnight. Fighter jets from the National Army bombed neighborhoods, while RSF fighters took over streets, homes, and hospitals. Civilians were trapped in the crossfire between two forces, neither of which represented their hopes for a democratic future. On one side, you have the Sudanese Armed Forces, the official state army led by al-Burhan. They have tanks, air power, and the structure of a national military. On the other side, you have the Rapid Support Forces, Hemedti's powerful paramilitary group. They are fast, mobile, and experienced in brutal urban warfare, often embedding themselves within civilian areas. Both sides claim they are fighting for the good of Sudan. Both accuse the other of atrocities. And as they fight, the country is collapsing around them. The real tragedy of this war isn't measured in territory gained or lost. It's measured in human suffering. Over 10 million people have been forced from their homes, creating the world's largest displacement crisis. Hospitals have been bombed and looted. Schools are closed. Millions are on the brink of starvation without access to food, clean water, or medicine. Women and girls face horrific levels of sexual violence. Entire communities have been shattered. Sudan is suffering through one of the worst humanitarian crises on the planet, yet it gets so little global attention. This war is not happening in a vacuum. Foreign interests are lurking in the shadows. Sudan's strategic location near the Red Sea, its agricultural potential, and of course its gold, have drawn in outside powers. Some quietly support Burhan's army, others arm Hemedti's RSF, and many benefit from the chaos that allows them to plunder the country's resources. When war becomes profitable for so many, peace becomes incredibly difficult to achieve. Numerous peace talks have been held, but they've all failed. Ceasefires are announced and then broken within hours. There's no trust, no accountability, and no real international pressure on the warlords to stop the fighting. The leaders protect their power, their fighters ignore agreements, and the civilians continue to pay the ultimate price. Peace cannot be found as long as the men who started the war are in charge of ending it. The world cannot continue to look away. We need stronger international sanctions against the generals and their foreign backers.